My name is Elaine, and I will be discussing the development of social relationships in adolescence in regards to the recently beloved Netflix show of Stranger Things. I will be taking into account the development of social relationships among the kids in the show for the span of the first 2 seasons. First, I would like to give a brief overview of the topic of developing social relationships in adolescence. In regards to the show, I will be describing the development and changes of relationships of kids who are entering their teenage years. We will discuss what characteristics make up the main friendship group and how their friendship evolves with the introduction of puberty, social pressures, and of course, girls. To give a brief background on the show, sorry for any spoilers, there is a group of close friends that come across a girl, 11, who has supernatural powers, while also trying to find out what happened to the fourth friend of their group, Will. They seem to have a link in their situations. During the course of the show, 11 and the other 3 boys, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, create a very close relationship. From the beginning of season 1, it is evident that the boys are a close-knit group of friends who spend a lot of their time together. In the show, they spend most of their time playing Dungeons & Dragons and being a part of the AV club in school. Their clique seems to be categorized as the outcasted group. This group or clique would most likely consist of a mix of neglected and rejected individuals. This is characterized by the bullying that is portrayed in the show in both seasons. They do have fewer friends and recognize that they are less popular. However, they do not exactly feel lonely because they have each other. The ages of the kids range from about 12 to 13 years old, which indicates the beginning of adolescence. This is the stage where social relationships among the sexes are rather distinguishable. The sex segregation is exemplified when the kids are wary about accepting 11 into their group and helping her because they fear it will distract from helping Will. However, over the course of the show, it is evident that the more time they spend with 11, the more they are willing to include her in their adventure. This is acknowledged when they try to assimilate her to look like a girl and even teach her language. Instead of completely shunning her away, as they would when they were younger, they actually tried to include her. However, this may be more due to her supernatural abilities and their interest in science fiction and fantasy rather than the effects of puberty. A true indicator of the regression of the sex cleavage is in the progression of season 2, where the group of boys are finally back together and they come across a new student in school, Max, who's a girl. Because she fits the characteristics of the group, Dustin and Lucas would like to include her into their group. On the other hand, they also have romantic reasons as to why they would like to include her. This would match the introduction of the effects of puberty and the rise in societal pressure of romantic development. However, they receive resistance from Mike because he does not want to replace 11 to whom his knowledge is missing. By the end of the show, Mike has accepted Max, and the conversion of boy-girl cliques have emerged. Even more romantic relationships have emerged also. Mike and 11 show their affection, Lucas and Max show their affection toward each other, and Dustin shows his efforts to at least impress girls and gain their attention. In regards to the accuracy of the portrayal of the development of social relationships among adolescents, I believe that the show had a mix of accurate and not accurate portrayals. Starting with the clique of outcasts, it is evident that, in accordance with the book on page 391, the group is able to congregate because they feel as if they belong to people who carry the same interests. By the definition of a neglected and rejected child on page 394, and with the evidence of some bullying and recognition of not being popular, the show portrays this side of adolescent social relationships accurately. One thing that is not portrayed accurately in regards to this definition is that these individuals do not feel lonely because essentially they have each other to rely on. In the show, it is portrayed that they are okay with not being popular or cool. In fact, they embrace it. On the aspect of sex segregation, or the sex cleavage, that is defined on page 392 as the primary separation of boy and girl groups, this is portrayed accurately as it coincides with this time frame in their lives. At first, they were wary of acceptance of girls in their group. As, as puberty and social pressure merged, they merged into a group of boys and girls. However, in my opinion, Eleven and Max were at first accepted into the group not because of the effects of puberty and the regard of the opposite sex in a matter of interest and personality, but rather to their connection with their need to help their friends and their own personal interest in science fiction. In this case, their acceptance was more for curiosity's sake. I believe that the motivation behind the creation of Stranger Things was to create a science fiction work of fantasy that would engage a large audience. I believe that the creators of the show wanted to bring the time period of the 80s back into the world of science fiction and create a never before seen show that would keep the audience wanting more at the end of each episode in each season. Overall, I believe that the creators of the show did a good job in tying the development of social relationships among the teenagers very well within the two seasons. They were able to capture the beginning innocence of adolescence and the changing relationships between friendships to romance, and also the shift in friend groups to the effect of social development. I personally chose this work of fiction because I hold great interest in the show and I have avidly watched and interpreted it from all angles. I felt that it would be interesting to then apply it to what I've learned from here in class. And lastly, it's easy to relate the show to personal experience and to what we've learned from the book because adolescence was not that long ago.